Now at 10 delegates from across the country officially choose Donald Trump as the Republican nominee for president. Plus, the MSSU Board of Governors decides penalties for students who fall behind on payments. And the Miami City Council discusses the fate of miles of historic Ribbon Road.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Just days after surviving an assassination attempt, former President Donald Trump is officially the Republican nominee for president. This is KOAM News at 10. I'm Dow Quick. It's the third time in a row he's been the GOP pick. On day one of the Republican National Convention, Trump named Ohio Senator J.D. Vance as his running mate. Natalie Brand is at the convention in Milwaukee.
With his ear bandaged, former President Donald Trump made a surprise appearance on night one of the RNC, once again pumping his fist in the air. Earlier, he announced Ohio Senator J.D. Vance as his presidential running mate after months of suspense and speculation.
I love that J.D. is young. You know, my father built Trump Tower at 37. You can be young and accomplished.
Vance was a harsh critic of Trump during his White House run back in 2016, but now he's one of his most vocal defenders in Congress. He's also known for his memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, about growing up in poverty. What does he bring to the ticket?
He understands what working people go through from his background, and he will be a tremendous advocate for Donald Trump and Donald Trump's agenda.
Monday night session is focused on the economy, with speakers ranging from lawmakers to everyday Americans, including this single mother.
I know Americans can relate when I say that every time I fill up my gas tank, go to the grocery store, and try to pay the bills, I think, who doesn't miss the Trump days?
Monday's keynote speaker is Teamsters Union Chief Sean O'Brien.
Everyday families see it. The American people aren't stupid. They know the system is broken. We all know how Washington is run. Working people have no chance of winning this fight.
Earlier Monday, delegates made Trump's nomination official with the roll call of states. Supporters still processing Saturday's shooting.
How do you think the tone changes this week, given Saturday's attempted assassination?
I think it's changed it a great deal, and especially because they tried to assassinate him, and he's still coming back fighting.
Delegates say this week they want to hear a message of unity. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
J.D. Vance gives his acceptance speech on Wednesday, and former President Trump accepts the nomination on Thursday. Meteorologist Lindsay Gaffney joins us now with a first look at the weather.
Still a pretty hot night and humid. 88 degrees out in Joplin, but it still feels like it's in the low 90s. So that trend continues. Unfortunately, we do still see heat advisories in the area, especially in our southern counties. But tonight, mostly central and western counties are still a little bit warmer. 90 in Oswego, Independence, Sedan, Yates Center, 88, Parsons, Chanute, Nowata. A little bit cooler out in the north and eastern counties, but that's going to flip tomorrow as we see that's where we have our heat advisory. Now, I expect a few more advisories to fill in, especially on the Kansas side, due to the high heat index values in the triple digits, even above 110 degrees tomorrow. We're going to talk more about that later and the relief that we see coming Tuesday night.
See you soon. Missouri Southern Board of Governors today held a special meeting to discuss penalties for students who fall behind on payments. The board decided to add a $100 late fee to a student's outstanding balance if payments are behind schedule. Before now, the school withheld transcripts for students with an outstanding balance, but a new federal law changed that.
This is happening specifically because the new federal regulation that we can no longer withhold transcripts for any student who receives Title IV aid.
Officials hope this fee encourages students to stay on top of payments. The Miami-Oklahoma City Council met this evening with a full schedule of agenda items to discuss. One of those concerned the fate of 3 miles of historic Ribbon Road. While the county commissioners proposed to destroy this stretch of pre-Route 66, Miami's Mayor Bless Parker says the historic road should be protected.
original stretch of Route 66. It's 9 foot, and it's the original asphalt, and it's a piece of history. And it's the most historic road in the world. Not just Oklahoma, not just the United States, in the world. People travel from all over to come see this piece of history. And, destroying it, milling it up is just not a good option, in our opinion.
The council also voted to establish a Main Street board with the goal of expanding access to property and events downtown. The Federal Emergency Management Agency is helping address flooding issues in Miami with a new grant. The $6.3 million grant is the largest the city has ever received. The city will use the money for hazard mitigation projects in 5 flood-prone areas. The aim is to prevent future road closures due to roadway flooding, and the selected areas are direct routes in and out of the city. An announcement ceremony was held on one of the most affected bridges in the city, where local and state officials celebrated the steps toward improvement.
This is the largest one we've ever gotten. I mean, it just thanks, and we're not stopping here, I mean, we have over $10 million in grants for the last 2 years, which is huge for a city Miami size. I mean, and we're not stopping. So, I mean, it's just, and we want to help the citizens, we want to help Miami grow, so.
That project is expected to take 3 years to complete from design to finish. A nonprofit in Carthage wants to help families in need by providing diapers. Their story's coming up. But up first, Good Samaritans saved the life of a Joplin man at James River. A quiet day on the James River in Galena, Missouri led to a kayaker from Joplin fighting for his life. He was saved by others on the river who watched him get trapped underwater. Adam Woodbury spoke to a witness about the rescue.
When the weather heats up, many of us may turn to the lakes or rivers to cool down, but it only takes a moment for a day of floating fun to take a serious turn. And in this case, it was a group of Good Samaritans who were in the right place at the right time over the weekend.
I mean, it's a pretty popular float. There was a lot of people on the river that day.
It's a pretty peaceful spot on the bank where the James River flows through Galena.
Usually put in, it's about a 5-mile float.
But a place where a kayaker became trapped in the current.
And we were about halfway through when this happened.
Chris Bagley was with a group of people floating down the river on Saturday when they took a break in Galena. They met up with a group of friends there. He says they had only been on shore for about 2 minutes when they noticed something was wrong.
Whenever we seen a kayak floating down the river with nobody on it, we didn't know, there were so many people on the river, we didn't know there was somebody trapped under the log until there was a young girl up the river a little bit, and she was like, "Hey, can you guys help me?"
As it turned out, 72-year-old Thomas Forehand from Joplin was the one pinned under the log.
And then it was rescue time at that point.
Once they realized what was happening, Bagley said a group of 5 or 6 young men didn't hesitate to rush to his rescue. After about 2 or 3 minutes, the young men pulled Forehand from the water, took him to shore, and began CPR. After another few minutes, Forehand was breathing and talking. The Stone County Sheriff's Office arrived, but because they were on the opposite bank, the ambulance couldn't get to him, and the sheriff's boat was still a few minutes away.
The first responder, he was on the other side. There's no way he could get there, so my son jumped in the kayak, went over and picked him up, and brought him back to the other side of the river.
About a quarter mile down the river, the ambulance was able to reach them and took Forehand to the hospital in serious condition. According to the Stone County Sheriff's Office, Forehand is now back at work. As for Bagley, he acknowledges, though, had everyone not been in the right place at that moment in time, the outcome could have been much worse.
I mean, that's kind of how we are all around here. We're kind of redneck and backwoods and things like that, but we care a lot for everybody else. And these guys didn't know this guy. They had no idea who he was.
In the end, Bagley says it didn't matter to anyone who the person was. Those young men only knew what they had to do.
God was with them that day, and people need to know that these guys did this.
Freeman volunteer received some high honors today. Susan Carlston was nominated and selected for the Missouri Community Service Commission's Senior Service Award. She volunteers at Freeman Neosho, Meals on Wheels, her church, and the Neosho Fish Hatchery. She was not able to attend the original ceremony in the spring because she was volunteering. Happy Bottoms Diaper Charity helps Southwest Missouri families who struggle to afford diapers. The Kansas City organization recently partnered with McCune Brooks to establish a service in Carthage. The director of the program says that half of all families lack the number of diapers they need for their children. As demand increases, the charity says they can't help others without support and donations from the community.
It affects their budget. I mean, the price of diapers continues to go up, so does the price of food and gas and everything else. And so it's just one way that we can help families take some stress off of their plate.
To volunteer or donate, you can find more information on our website. Of course, that's KOAMnewsnow.com. Parsons Police Department hosted a cool event at the Parsons Public Pool. Kids of all ages turned out for the Popsicles with Police event today. Sounds like fun. In addition to enjoying some cool, tasty treats, kids got to interact with local police officers.
I think it's very important for the police to get involved in the community, just for community members to see them in a different light, know that they are humans, and to be able to interact with them, ask them any questions they may possibly have, and just to be able to have a better connection throughout the community.
This was the second year of Popsicles with Police in Parsons. The department says the event has proven to be a successful community outreach program. Good way to cool off, too. A little bit later, we look back on the attempted assassination of President Harry Truman.
And we're also still dealing with the heat, but there is a cold front moving through. We're all looking forward to it, and we'll talk about it right after the break.
Honda.
Well, it's still going to be a pretty hot and muggy night, unfortunately. We do get a break later this week, but for right now, we'll take a look at downtown Joplin from the Cornell Arts and Entertainment Complex. A little bit breezy out there. We're still seeing wind gusts up to 20, 25 miles per hour. We've also got this heat advisory still in effect until Tuesday evening for most of our counties out in Missouri, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. Likely we'll see a few more starting to push into the Kansas region as well, especially in the early morning hours on Tuesday, because we do still see pretty high heat advisory or heat index values throughout tomorrow evening as well. Now, we have a few clouds moving into the area, but we're not seeing any rain until early in the morning. That's just going to add to the humidity levels, adding to that heat risk, the heat index values as well. So tomorrow we still have a major risk for our southern and a few western counties as well, and a moderate risk for all of our counties in the north. Now we move into Wednesday. After the cold front passes early Wednesday morning, we see a drop in the heat risk down to a minor risk. So we're looking forward to that. Unfortunately, the heat index values tomorrow are still going to be in the triple digits, even some areas getting in above 110. So Joplin will be 110, Pittsburgh 109, Oswego 110, but in the southern counties, 113 in Miami, 114 in Welsh and Veneta. It's going to be pretty hot, and unfortunately the rain in the morning doesn't help us out much, because after it evaporates, after the sun rises, it's just going to add to that humidity and drive those heat index values up even further. Then we move into Wednesday. After the cold front passes, temperatures are in the mid 80s. They feel like they're in the mid 80s. It's going to be a nice welcomed break. But like I said, we've got a few showers to get through in the morning on Tuesday and one more hot and muggy day before we get that relief. So we see showers pushing in early Tuesday morning. It's about 5 a.m. into our northeastern counties, Nevada, Fort Scott, pushing into Webb City, Joplin area. We're not looking at a severe threat, but you might still expect to hear some thunder, see some lightning as well. And then we move into Wednesday morning. Right after midnight, we'll start to see a few showers and thunderstorms pushing in, but our main line along that frontal boundary is going to be pushing in a little bit later in the morning. 3:30 on Wednesday, we see a nice perpendicular cold front moving through. Storms fire up along that. Some could be strong to severe. Main threat with all of these storms still going to be strong, damaging wind gusts, and then we also have localized flooding risk as well, especially because we still have scattered thunderstorms and scattered showers continuing throughout the rest of the day on top of these strong to severe storms in the morning. So it's going to be a long rainy day on Wednesday, but after that temperatures drop down. Overnight lows are going to be in the low to mid 60s, and the highs are going to be in the mid 80s all the way until the weekend. We get back into the low 90s, upper 80s, but overall It's going to be about average, sunny skies all week long. Just a couple more days of gross weather.
And we will welcome the rain when it comes.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Thanks, Lindsay. Throughout history, there have been a number of assassination attempts on political figures. Even Missouri's own Harry Truman survived an assassination attempt. Alan Shope has details.
Gunfire erupted in the front of the house.
And those actual weapons on display at the Truman Library, along with the complete story of the November 1st, 1950 Blair House assassination attempt of then-President Harry Truman.
He ran to the window to see what was going on, and everybody was saying, "Get back, get back, get back."
27 shots later, a White House officer lay dead along with one of the shooters.
It was initiated by a couple of Puerto Rican nationalists. You know, killing the president would have obviously put Puerto Rican independence on a lot of people's minds.
In this letter, Truman writing down his version of what happened and to honor the fallen officer who gave his life protecting him.
This is an officer he knew. I mean, there was a personal connection, and that was very troubling to Truman.
After the attempt on his life, Kurt says his daily walks became much more guarded.
He said, you know, this is just, you just have to expect this when you're president.
Kurt says it wasn't until after the Kennedy assassination that former presidents actually started getting Secret Service protection.
I mean, even after Truman leaves office, it's ironic, he doesn't have Secret Service protection immediately upon becoming a former president.
Truman and then later President Carter commuting the sentence of the surviving shooter.
Not having something like that in the back of your mind, I can't imagine that he didn't think about it, but I don't think he let it alter his life. I mean, Truman, he said at one point, look, when it's your time, it's your time. And I just don't think he really got up in the morning wondering if it was his last day.
The assassination attempt displays in the Korean War exhibit area of the Truman Library. Still ahead, a Chanute High School wrestler receives All-American honors, and Bobby Witt Jr. competes in the MLB Home Run Derby. John Dale says those stories and a lot more, of course, coming up next.
The 2024 Junior Women's Wrestling Freestyle National Championships wrapped up in North Dakota over the weekend, and a local athlete shines on one of the sport's biggest stages. Callie Dillow, who is going to be a junior at Chanute High School this coming fall, is named a Fargo All-American at the National Championships this past weekend. Competing at 170 pounds, she beat her first two opponents 10-0, 12-0, advancing to the quarterfinals as one of the last 8 wrestlers standing in a tournament that features 128 participants in each weight class. Now, today is day 2 in the 2024 MLB draft. Rounds 1 and 2 took place yesterday. Things speed up with rounds 3 through 10 starting this afternoon. The Royals drafted a two-way player and catcher in their first 2 rounds yesterday. They stay pitcher heavy in day 2. Kansas City drafts 8 players, 7 of whom are pitchers, including Drew Bean, LP Langevin, and AJ Causey. All 3 of them are third-team All-Americans in 2024. Kansas City's lone position player in the second day is Canyon Brown. He's a catcher from North Carolina A&T who batted .322 as a junior this past season. Meanwhile, Cardinals' only pick from day 1 was West Virginia shortstop J.J. Weatherholt. They lead off day 2 with Brian Holiday, who saw very limited action at Oklahoma State this year after being named the JUCO World Series Most Outstanding Player in 2023. In the 4th round, they take Arizona State catcher Ryan Campos. He batted above .350 his whole college career. They also draft a couple All-Big 12 players, Braden Davis, Josh Cross. The draft wraps up with rounds 11 through 20 tomorrow. Today also marks the beginning of Major League Baseball's All-Star break. None of the 30 clubs in the major leagues play this evening, but the 2024 Home Run Derby takes place. Royals shortstop Bobby Witt Jr., one of 8 participants in tonight's Home Run Derby in Arlington, Texas. The Kansas City slugger hits 20 home runs in his first round of the event, some of which you're seeing right now. That's good enough to send him through to the semifinals. Makes him the first Royal to do so since Danny Tartabull in 1991. Then in the semis, Witt Jr. faces off against Jose Ramirez of the Guardians. He hits 17 more home runs. That puts him through to the finals. He bats second in the final round, watched as Teoscar Hernandez hit 14 home runs in his final at-bat. So now check this out. Witt Jr. in the final round has 13 home runs, 1 out remaining. So he needs to hit a home run on this swing to keep the contest going. He comes up literally inches short. His final swing ends up hitting, you'll see on the replay, the top of the wall in left center field, and he finishes in second place in the home run derby. So you get so close that it hurts to see that, but Bobby Witt Jr. definitely showing on a big stage to a lot of people more than just Kansas City fans that he's a superstar and he's deserving of all the hype around him.
Absolutely. As you say, Royals fans have known that for a while now. It's about time the rest of America learned the same thing. We'll be right back. Look at this. The 2024 Mullet Champs competition is underway with round one voting featuring some participants from Southern Oklahoma. The competition seeks out the best mullets across America because everybody has to be the best at something, right? And it features 3 age groups, kids, teens, adults, where the community can vote for their favorite mullet styles with cash prizes, $5,000 awarded for this year's mullet champions. If you want to vote in the first round, we're going to have a link on our website. Check it out. You have until midnight on Wednesday. At the very least, it'll be fun just to look at the various mullets.
What an interesting competition.
Yeah.
Love that.
It's business in front, party in the back.
Well, today and tomorrow it's going to be pretty hot tonight, and we do have a cold front moving through tomorrow night, hopefully cooling us down at least for the next week and a half. Foreseeable future.
That'll be welcome for sure. Final sports note.
We'll be following along tomorrow in the final rounds of the MLB draft, not only to see who the Cardinals and Royals get, but also to see if some of our local players from Pitt State, Missouri Southern Crowder might get picked.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I know you'll keep us posted. Thanks for joining us. Morning show starts at 5 a.m. Let's make it a great tomorrow.